Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Dusting Off Warlord Saga of the Storm. Featuring Havellin Tansiq, our first, I believe, our first elf warlord that we're going to be taking kind of a serious look at. Kind of an older warlord, and his ability may seem kind of like, what would you do with this on first look? So Havellin Tansiq is a 5th level elf cleric. He has very bad stats for the most part. One attack at +2. Clerics usually have pretty decent fighting ability. This guy, yeah, not so much. 14 armor class, +10 skill is good. 2 hit points, 2, which is yeah, that's danger zone right there. You don't want to get hit by like a chain lightning or something like that. He does have magic resistance +0, so it helps against that chain lightning, but still, yeah. He has a single ability, and that is his order. If Havellin Tansiq is your warlord, kill an elf in your army to give an elf in your army +1 hit point permanently. The whole if he's your warlord, that's because when he was printed, he's an older warlord. When he was printed, you could play multiple warlords, and I believe I've said that several times in this series. Which most I think historically relevance of that would be the old Wound Train deck with him, Lord Winter, Cordios, and Mirror Magic. We lost a Medusan Lord from that. It was great, very glorious. Excuse me. But we can't do that anymore because one, we can't play multiple warlords. Mirror Magic, one, I believe it's been errated, and it's not even legal in the format anymore, which is unfortunate. I liked Mirror Magic with Lennox, and yeah. But yeah. So what do you do with this ability? It doesn't seem like it directly propels your win condition because you're killing an elf to give a different elf +1 hit point. It doesn't really seem like you're buying a whole lot of ground with that. You can use it to give him a 3rd hit point so he doesn't get randomly killed by some double wounding melee strike or range strike. But that costs killing an elf. Ugh, yeah. What we are going to be doing with that, and I think there are several different things you can do with this, but what we're going to be doing with that is we're going to be combining him with this very odd character, Benedrick. Benedrick is a mercenary who cannot attack. He has one melee strike at +9, 7 armor class, +5 skill, 4 hit points, which is a lot for a 4th level fighter. Order, perform a melee strike. Benedrick suffers 1 wound after the strike, which may not be prevented or reduced. As you may notice, this card it's not an elf, so we have to get kind of janky. We have to play Blood Oath to turn him into an elf. I think there probably are other ways of doing that. None of them are coming to mind right now. I think there's like an item that you can use to do that. Yeah, so what our plan is going to be, and this is an ambitious plan. I will tell you right now, out of all the decks that I have, there's probably ways you can optimize this way better. But yeah, this deck by far has the most, and by a large margin, games where it doesn't do anything. Like I need to draw into this combo, and while this is happening, I'm playing in my opinion, the most fragile faction in the game. My opponent is killing my guys. Once this gets going, I need to start killing my guys. Very the chosen feel to this. As a backup, or even in some cases, instead of relying on Benedrick, we also have Vedrid. So Vedrid is a very interesting character, I think, especially with Jatuya's Sign being re-released back into Ancients. Vedrid is basically a vampire. He's a 4th level fighter, +7/+2 for his attacks, 14 AC. He has this ability, React. After Vedrid kills an opposing character with a melee strike, remove a wound from Vedrid. This is not once per turn. He doesn't have to make any kind of check. He just has to kill something with the melee strike. So, just from those 2 4th level fighters, excuse me, the plan, hopefully, is to get them in play, get them to somewhere where I need them to be, basically rank 1, and then just start killing all my other guys off to make these as durable, make Vedrid have as many hit points as possible so that even when you wound him, he just starts leeching hit points back. Or in Benedrick's case, just have him keep making melee strikes over and over again. Benedrick's attack at +9 means he's pretty good about hitting most things in the game. Vedrid does have those 2 swings, and yeah, that's what we're going to try to do. our start for this is going to be, we're going to run 2 Elamare. This is a druid that lets you draw a card after Elamare dies. The druid trait is, it can be important. It's not important in this version because I think I've got like 4 different versions of this deck. This is just the one I'm playing right now. So the Elamare, you can kill him to add an extra hit point to something, but when he dies, he draws you a card, which is, yeah, that's kind of important for this. We're also starting for rank 1, we have a single copy of Kira Squib, who can come back from the discard pile after anybody rolls a critical success or failure. That happens a lot more than you think it does. Like, if you ever wondered, like, if you ever, like, not realized how many times people either fumble or critically succeed, a couple games with Kira Squib, you will all of a sudden realize it happens way more than you think it does. This is important because, again, you can kill the Squib yourself to get hit points, and it can come back. And, yeah, I like that. Then we are starting backing her up 2 copies of Quadriblet. Now, because this deck is extremely inconsistent, sometimes the best plan you have is if you just didn't draw anything turn 1, you're just like, okay, this sucks, is just put a bunch of hit points on Quadriblet. It's way more durable than you think it is. Characters targeting Quadriblet with melee or range strikes receive no bonus of any kind to the roll. This also can't have its AC raised, so no mass blessing bonus, at least as far as the armor class goes. So that's our start. And again, I usually, what typically ends up happening is, like, my first action is, it's usually either kill the Squib off to buff one of the Quadriblets, or kill off one of the Elamares to do the same thing and draw a card. Yeah, so because we want to get one of those 2 characters, again, Benedrick is ideal, but it's a 2-card combo, you need the Blood Oath too. We're going to be running 3 copies of Dedelia and 3 copies of Hassemel. So my little play group, we basically play an alternate version, or a slightly modified version of Ancients, and Dedelia is no longer legal in Ancients, because the Guardians of the Storm decided a little too good. I respectfully disagree. I think if you thought this was too good, you probably should have got rid of Exhaustion too. I'm going to try not to harp on Exhaustion all the time, but I could see this being, I don't know, like whatever you'd say, loyal, like elf only, I guess. But that's neither here nor there. So Dedelia, when she comes into play, she draws you a card, and then you can kill her to get an extra hit point on something. Hassemel, you have to spend him and another elf to draw a card. The difference is you can do this every turn. You can just kill him off too if you need an extra hit point for something. So we got that, and then we've got a copy of Torn Yasar because, again, really want to. This is basically a combo deck, so you really want to try to maximize your odds of getting one of your your 2 combo pieces. We're also starting. We're not starting. We got 3 copies of Yan Thorin. This is mostly, well, it's in here for 2 reasons. One, her MRP'd version for 4th edition, she has medicine. So this is actually kind of useful for removing wounds from Benedrick. And then you can kill her. Basically, she can potentially be 2 extra strikes with Benedrick. You play her, you move her up, you medicine. She needs to roll a 14 to make it, which, yeah, but if you make it, it's great. And you can just kill her to get an extra hit point. She's also a cleric, which is important for one of the other cards when I get to actions. We got a copy of Killus of Flesh. This guy's kind of interesting. After an elf dies, you return the elf. You spend this guy as a spend react. You return an elf to play spent in the same location. It permanently gains the undead trait, +3 attack and +1 hit point. Kill the elf if Killus ready stuns or leaves play. You can do several different things with this. I probably should have looked this up before I started making this video. I think once the elf hits the discard pile, say it was a Vedrid with 10 hit points on it, I think he loses all those hit points. So that is unfortunate. I think if you use this on, actually, I don't know if you can even use this on, again, I should have looked this up. I don't think you can use this on Benedrick because it's after he dies, and once he's dead, I don't think the Blood Oath counts. So, really, what you use this for is you just use this to get an extra hit point. There's so many things in this deck that do that. You can play Dedelia, kill her to get the extra hit point, use this to bring her back, which is another card, and then kill her again for an extra hit point. Nobody cares. And then you can kill Killus also if you have to. Most of these characters, they're all expendable, so it's fine. We also have a single copy of Yaba Wave Runner. This is the hero that came out of 4th edition. You spend him to put a level 1 or 2 undead from your discard pile into play. The only undead in the deck is Cure Squib. You can start other undead or include different ones. What I just said about Dedelia basically applies to Kira Squib as well with this guy. He just brings her back, you kill her again, and then you kill him. It's extra hit points, it's nice. We have a 3rd copy of Elamare too, because, again, level 2 Cleric is important, and then before he dies, you draw a card, so that's pretty great. So as far as actions go, you notice that, again, Benedric, you really want to try to be getting lots and lots of hit points on him, and Vedrid too. But he is going to be burning through those through 2 ways. One, people are probably punching him, and Benedric's got that amazing 7 armor class, so they probably hit him. And that takes away from strikes he's doing. So we have 3 copies of Cure Lethal Wounds and 3 copies of Cure Serious Wounds. The reason I mentioned clerics being important is the MRP'd version of Cure Serious Wounds. This doesn't just remove 1 wound, this removes all, and Cure Lethal Wounds has always removed all. So it is not, an uncommon scenario to have Benedric sitting there. He has, 10 hit points, but he suffered 8 wounds, and so he can only use his ability once more, and then he might die after that. You can use either of these healing spells to take all those wounds off of him, and he can make all those extra strikes again. So, I think that's great. It's a lot of fun. This is, in my opinion, and I'm biased on this because I do quite enjoy this guy. This is the kind of combo deck that I both like playing and like playing against, because it works, at least when you can get it running, it works, but it's also not one of those the game is over. Like, I drew the thing, and sorry, like, not that I'm trying to pick on other games here, but if you look at some of like the infinite combo things you can get in Magic, like infinite mana combos into Fireball or whatever. I don't know what the crazy kids are doing these days. But those combos where it's like, as soon as I get all the pieces together, if you don't have an immediate way to stop it, the game's over. This doesn't do that. There's still a game going on, and you can still lose, even when you get the setup going. Benedric, he's got Blood Oath on, and he's got 10 hit points, and then all of a sudden, someone goes, I'm going to make like Uriel goes, I'm going to make a melee strike for like 6 wounds, and you're like, oh, okay. So, we also have 3 copies of Back Alley Tavern and 3 copies of Meat at the Inn. I do realize that I think I had these in Sigurd or 2. Most of my decks don't actually do this. I think I do Immediate at the End in a lot of my decks. Back Alley Tavern, not so much, but again, this is basically a combo deck, and it doesn't really do anything if you don't draw the cards. The correct cards anyway, so... as far as stuff to kind of help both those fighters kind of do their thing, we have 3 copies of No Prisoners and 3 copies of Chosen. Yanthorin being good is kind of important for Chosen to work. There is another I think it's like Tekillith, I think I can't remember what his name is. There's a Nothord trader that works for elves, who also has medicine, and his ability to make it is slightly better. I think he's got like +1 to it. But Yanthorin being Chosen, Chosen's kind of odd. This card is worded very strangely. And I didn't realize it worked like this actually for a while. But you target a character in your army, and until the end of the turn, he has +4 attack and inflicts an additional wound during melee and range strikes, targeting characters of the opposite alignment. But it's of the opposite alignment of the cleric. And so Havellin Tansiq can cast this because he's evil. But if you're needing a good aligned cleric, you have Yanthorin. You can also have Torn cast this too. And then No Prisoners. Benedric can't attack, but you can No Prisoners off of his ability, and that buys you some free strikes that he normally wouldn't be able to generate because he can't attack. You can change this out if you don't like this, because apparently some people don't like it. I think this card's great, but you can change this out for Massacre instead, which it's very similar, except it's a DC save instead of a melee strike. I like this more in this version because Vedrid can use this, and it'll remove wounds from him because he's killing things with melee strikes, assuming he hits with this. So, if you don't like Chosen, you can replace that with Quick Strength. It's mostly the same. The double wounding thing is really good, but it's also an order you have to do, which does kind of suck. And if you don't have the right alignment to make it work, it can be dead. Quick Strength for +5. I mean, that puts Benedric's strikes at +14. I mean, there's not much he's not going to be able to at least somewhat reliably hit with that. So. And then we have a couple items here. We have 3 copies of Riding Horse. Now, Benedric and Vedrid are both fighters. So I think for a long time I was running. I think I was just running Griffin and Messir. It was the most reliable thing for them. But I kept getting into games where I have the, and this didn't happen until a little bit later because I didn't even realize that Cure Serious Wounds got MRP'd for kind of a long time. But there are plenty of times where like you need to get the cleric into the same rank as your whoever you want to heal, and you can't move and do it because you're spent. So riding horse, as like not good this card is, it's actually, I found it to be like kind of a, I don't even want to say guilty pleasure. I use this a lot because I keep getting in these weird scenarios where, you know, I have a fighter, usually it's a fighter who needs a steed, but there's a random support piece that just every now and again, it just needs to move forward. So yeah, I go to riding horse a lot, so it's fun. And then rounding it out, we have a single copy of Iridescent Armor. This can be a Bruntor's Helm if you don't have this and don't want to track this down. It gives you better stats than a Bruntor's Helm. It does give you magic resistance. Now, your guys' skill is not good enough to really make that ever work, like, reliably, but this gives you an extra hit point, which is pretty much why it's there. And then fighters get +1 level for equipping this for each wound on them. For Benedict, again, I think that's what, three wounds he'd need. That's gonna happen most of the time. So, yeah, again, this can be something else, but I think it's kind of nifty. So that is what we are doing for Havellin Tansiq. I am not a butcher. I am a murderer. Know the difference. And no, House Tansiq. That's some freaking great flavor text right there too. Now, again, I do have several different variants of this deck. This is just the one I'm playing at the moment. The other one that I think is really, really worth mentioning is, and one of the reasons why I don't do this now is because you almost don't need Havellin Tansiq to do this, is instead of some of the other stuff in here, you run Invulnerability Potion. This is an item that you discard. It's a 6th level action, or a 6th level item, excuse me. You discard it to give the character +2 armor class and +4 hit points for the turn. +4 hit points is a lot. But you combine this with the Nodwick Familiar / Henchman, who can, you can spend it to equip an item from your discard pile to this character as long as they can equip it. So just those two together, that's 8 hit points. I mean, the +4 armor class is 9, but that's 8 hit points you're getting from 2 cards right there. And you can also play Nanus too, who kind of works in a similar way to Nodwick. You can remove cards from your discard pile to retrieve an item and equip it, and put it in your hand. So that's even more Invulnerability Potion, goodness you can use. One of the reasons I don't really do that now, well, there's two. One, the Invulnerability Potion and, to a lesser extent, Nodwick. These are both level 6, so Benedict can't equip these in rank 1. It's not really hard to get his level up. You can play things like, I think the last time I was using Mentorship to do it. The Mentorship basically levels you up. And that can get around that problem of equipping items. You can play like Strengthen if you need to. I think it's called Strengthen. You can play Meditation if you want. And that also lets you play the Temple of Lore as well to get the extra hit point, because now your character is level 5. Again, I don't think that's, I think it's ultimately it's probably better, but it almost feels like if you're going to do that, like you don't even really need to play Havellin Tansiq at all. Like you can play, you could play like, I can't remember the summoner. And then you could play Rise and Obey, which is another way just to get the Benedict. So, but yeah, that's another potential build you can do. As far as other hit points go, you can also play with My Last Breath. This is a react that after the character using it suffers 1 or more wounds, you get +2 hit points for the turn. So it's kind of like an Invulnerability Potion, but you have to hold this in your hand. But this triggers off of any wounds you're taking, assuming you're allowed to take reacts. So you can have your Benedict all the way up, and you can have him to where he's one hit away from dying, and your opponent swings at him. Again, they probably hit him because his armor class sucks. And then you get to go, aha, with My Last Breath, and he's still alive, and you get, an extra swing or two, and then you heal him on top. This can be a lot of fun. But I'm tight for space on this. You can also just run, and again, if you're doing this, you don't necessarily need to be playing Havellin Tansiq. You can just run a crap ton of toughnesses and just be like, it's Benedict, it's a little bit of card draw, and it's a bunch of toughness, and I'm just gonna keep giving him hit points. And yeah, I don't think I have ever done that, but when I was going through my stuff, those two cards were together, and I'm like, yeah, that is definitely, you can do that. If you don't like Vedrid, or Benedict, although Benedict is kind of integral to all of this, you can run Iquitos instead, who functions in kind of a similar way. You can kill X characters in your army, or X characters you control, to shove Iquidos up to the front when you play her. And when she kills a character with a melee strike, you ready her. So in theory, she can swing a bunch of times. She can't equip items, and she can't get attack bonuses. You can get around that by running, I think it's the Lady's Doom, to give everybody -5 armor class, which, functionally speaking, is making her attacks +9. And then just load her up with hit points, heal her if you can, and just have her keep swinging. You can also run, if you want like a little bit more of a aggressive start, you can run Erlas. I don't even know how to say this guy's name. This is a guy who can spend to do a +2 range strike, and before he dies, you perform a +4 range strike. He can do it while he's stunned. A very chosen field of this. This actually can be kind of useful because that +4 range strike is a pretty good bonus for a range strike, and again, the deck is usually pretty fragile. So if you decide not to start the Elemares, you can start 2 of these, and you can kill them off one after the other to shoot, and then buff one of your quadrablets to hopefully buy you some time. So I think I did do that in the past. Actually, I think I did one of these and one of the Elemares, and it worked out okay. So that's an option. As far as other actions go, Outmatched, I really wish I had room for Outmatched, especially because I'm playing no prisoners. No prisoners off of an Outmatch, off of a Benedric who's underchosen. I know that's like this crazy dream scenario, and I don't think it's ever happened, but that's a react, potentially three casualties you're causing as they're dropping, a level 1 guy. Or, moving into rank 1. And one of the reasons that's important is because Benedric's armor class is so low. He's got 7. Most things that are directed to get to Benedric probably hit him. Even some of the characters that have, like, negative attack stacks, like Shield Wall Knight, their odds of hitting him are not terrible. So, really wish I could fit Outmatched in. Maybe I'll tweak this at some point after I'm done recording this. Another thing you can do, and I haven't ever done this. I have thought about doing this. I've just never actually put the deck together. Is you can run Dragon's Horde, okay? So, Dragon's Horde is this really interesting action. It has a react. After you kill a dragon with a melee striker action, you search your deck for any item, show it to your opponents, add it to your hand. The character is +5 levels for equipping items until the end of the turn. Now, this does not have to be, and if this does not have to be an opposing dragon. It can be one of your dragons. So a common thing you'll see in things like the Nemesis is they'll start I think it's Minor Dragonkin. They'll start a level 2 dragon, they'll kill him himself, they'll play this, and they'll be like, now I'm level 10 for equipping items, I'm going to go grab some stuff. You can't make melee strikes against your own characters if they are melee strikes from an attack. Attacks have to be against opposing characters. But Benedric's ability can target your own dragon, so even when he's in rank 1, this makes him, functionally speaking, he's level 10 for equipping items. You can put some cool level 10 stuff out on this guy, and yeah, all at the cost of, 1 wound on Benedric and losing one of your characters, which is usually not a big deal. This also, if that's not going to work, you can just play the spend order to draw a card. I mean, that's an option there. Speaking of drawing cards, you can also run Wheel of Fate. I mentioned that this deck has a lot of turns where it doesn't, or a lot of games where it doesn't do anything, because you just, despite drawing all these cards, you just, the bottom 6 cards of your deck are Benedric and Vedran, and it's like, well, that just sucks. Wheel of Fate is a action card you can play to spend order. If you're a seer, you don't spend to play this. You discard your hand and you draw that number of cards +1. So you can use this if you are, again, really desperate to try to get your combo off. I don't do this now. Again, I used to play this. I don't do this now because I was finding there were too many spend orders, and so I'm like, But I think it's still usable. And then for defensive cards, one of the ones I actually quite like with this deck is Wall of Swords. You target a character in play. Until the end of the turn, the character has the ability, before a melee strike roll targeting this character, the attacker must succeed with a dex save, DC 17, or suffer 2 wounds. This is actually, in my opinion, this card can go a long way to keeping you alive. Not necessarily because it kills things, Although you can build decks to do that. Mostly because a lot of people just don't want to punch you. They're like, that DC is really high. It's not super high, but DC 17 is pretty high. A lot of the low-level characters that normally threaten Benedric, they are in very real danger of this killing them. So this has, in some games, this has basically been almost like a cleric version of like Stone Skin. Like people just like, I'm not going to swing. We'll wait it out. This did also get dropped because, again, it's a spend order, and yeah, I mean, I guess Yanthorian can cast this, but again, I'm sure there are plenty other different builds you can have this guy, plenty of other takes. I do, at some point, again, I don't play as often as I'd like to anymore, but instead of using Benedric, I'm kind of curious about dropping him altogether and then more running characters that I want to throw items on, because again, if you can get like Vedrid, if you can get Vedrid geared up to the point where his AC is, I don't know, 22, 23, and you can give him a bunch of hit points and just sit behind him and go, well, he's taking damage, but he can heal it back really quickly if you give him the right gear. You know, you give him a rapier, you give him, or a double-bladed sword, anything like that. Anything that can generate extra strikes, and, you know, just some basic stuff. You know, a full plate, a Bruntor's helm. Like, there's plenty of things you can do with that. So I think that might be kind of interesting to do in the future. There's probably some other stuff that I haven't even thought of yet, but yeah, that's my take on Havellin Tansiq, the 2 hit points Priest of Flesh. So yeah, questions, comments, love to hear them. Thanks for checking this out. God bless you, and I will catch you in the next video.